In this episode, I'm talking about journaling. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me in this week's video. We are talking about journaling, but before we get into it, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the bell so you know when the next video is out. And follow me on social media, on Instagram, on Twitter. I'm easy to find, easy to get a hold of. Would love to hear from you guys. This is one of my favorite life hacks, so to speak. It's not even a life hack, but this is one of my favorite habits. The reason I love journaling is because it's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to document, to collect my own data on myself. I love to read, but I will say this, the best books that I've ever read are the ones that I wrote. I love to be able to go into my journals and to see what I was thinking at that moment, to be able to read ideas that I captured in the past, to read my thoughts. I look back at the journals I kept as a fifth grader, as a high schooler, and it's really neat to see how I have evolved over time. Now, one of the things I talk about very often with the athletes that I work with is the importance of journaling. Journaling is a great opportunity to learn, to cultivate the growth mindset. A lot of times we go through life without learning lessons, and it's interesting to see the different ways athletes use journals. I once met an athlete who will walk into the locker room and she'll write down and document everything that's going on in her life. All of the things that's troubling her, all of the things that's causing her stress outside of the field. She'll write it down, she'll empty the bucket, so to speak, she'll put it all down, she'll close it, and then she'll put it in her locker. And the reason she does this is because she doesn't want these thoughts to be with her out on the field. Obviously, she's human, they're gonna creep in, but for her, it's a symbol of taking off the person, putting it in her locker so she can focus on being the best athlete that she can. Now, what's great about it is she's not telling herself that these problems are gone completely. She's saying that I'm gonna put them in my locker and I'll be back after the game and I'll pick them up again. Another athlete that I know, what he does is he'll write down his thoughts for the game. And here's the interesting thing. It's the same thoughts every single day. Writes down his approach, his attitude, thoughts that he wants to have in mind. It's the same thing every day. Now I ask him why he does that. And he says that before a game, he does a lot of drills in order to encode it deeply into his muscle memory, as he says. And he says, why not do that for the mental game? If I'm doing things over and over and over physically, might as well do it over and over mentally. We went through his journal, it's the same thing every single day. And he says that he notices that as he does this in the game, those thoughts start to pop up. He's deciding how to think. Another athlete who I've seen, what they do is they write down in their journals all of their negative thoughts. Now, what's interesting is when they write down their negative thoughts, the reason they do that is because when they have these thoughts in their mind, it consumes them. It takes up valuable real estate for positive thinking, for creative thinking, for problem solving. And so what she does is she puts it down on paper, all of her negative thoughts, so she can look at her thoughts instead of through her thoughts. Now, here's the interesting thing. When the negative thoughts do creep in, when the doubts do creep in, she says, I already wrote it in my journal. I know how to recognize it. And when they pop up, she says, oh, I already wrote that down. She'll look at it and smile at it and breathe those thoughts away. So that's how she uses her journal. I know another athlete who actually takes his journal into competition. And in between the breaks of competition, he'll open it up and he'll write down some of his thoughts. How was his opponent working him? What was his strategy moving forward? And what this allows him to do is it allows him to game plan and strategize in the game. So I can give you tons of different examples of how different people use journals. Now, my invitation to you is to figure out how this will work for you. It could be writing down things that you learn every day. It could be ideas. You decide. What's interesting about all of these athletes and how they use their journals is it took a long time for them to figure out what works for them. Now, what you need to do is figure out what works for you. Don't just take one of these ideas and adopt it as your own. Maybe you will, but then you'll find out that doesn't work for you. And so you do what works for you. Start simple. keep it small. Maybe it's opening up your journal and once a day you write down what you're grateful for. Maybe it's at the end of the day you write down one lesson you learned for the day. What is something you learned? What's something you are going to do better tomorrow? Maybe you're going to use your journal as cool stories that you learned throughout the day. It could be anything you want. The great thing about the journal is the weakest pen is stronger than the strongest memory. What happens a lot of times is we forget. We forget lessons learned. We forget tough times. And here's the cool thing. When you go through your journal, particularly during difficult times and you're consistent in writing it during the tough times, when the good times happen, you can go back and read your journal and say, wow, look at how difficult this was. This was a time in my career where I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to quit. I didn't think I was good. And then you're gonna notice that, wow, you got out of it. And you can look back to see what you did or what you didn't do in order to get in order to get out of it. Then what you can also do is when you're going through tough times, you can go back in your journal and see what you were thinking and what you were doing during the good times. You'll be able to look and learn from none other than yourself. You can learn from yourself, and maybe you're going to be able to identify things that you used to do that you're currently not doing, things that you didn't do that you're currently are doing that might be impeding success. And so my invitation to you this week is to go out and grab a journal. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, leather back, no, it could be a spiral notebook. Now, some of you might say, I want to do it in my phone. That's fine too. You can do it in your phone, you can do it in a hard journal, whatever you want. I like hard journals so I can go back quickly and go and read. Another thing is go back and read. Go back and read what you learned. Go back and learn the lessons from the past. And so I hope you can pull something from this and maybe it sparks something to help you become the best version of yourself. So for those of you who are journalers, please write down in the comments below, how do you do it? And what have been the benefits of journaling for you? So there you have it. Thanks for joining us in this video. Hit the subscribe button and the bell if you have not already. And if you know of someone who could benefit from these videos, please share. I love to hear that these videos are going out and helping as many people as possible. Thanks for joining me once again, and we'll do it again next week.